Welcome back. He's Ryan Sutton. I'm nearly Chad Range. This is the Hit Squad, and we're tackling the Knuckle Junkies questions. We want your questions as well. Hit Squad 101 ESPN. That's Facebook and Twitter handle there. We're going to dive right into them. These are always some of my favorite questions, and we'll get with buy or sell. Miehsa Tate's stock will fall drastically if she is submitted in round one again.
Oh, buy.
Absolutely. I think there's no doubt.
Miehsa Tate's stock fell whenever she got beat up by Kat Zingano. You know,
there's a good point. It should be Kat fighting that fight.
Yeah.
Kat got injured, and now, unfortunately, I feel as though we kind of got, the second.
The UFC, put the paddles on Miehsa Tate's career to
let's get her into the tough championship, and she kind of has fallen, ass backwards into a great fight card on a great, she can do some great things, but yes, I mean, she has to show up for that fight.
Absolutely.
Do you see it getting out of round one?
No.
Yeah,
I don't.
It's Ronda Rousey. Yeah.
I think Ronda Rousey, and if it does get out of round one or Miehsa Tate finds a way to win, that makes Kat Zingano look really dangerous.
Good. Yeah.
Really dangerous.
I haven't heard how Kat's doing. I mean, obviously, you would think she'd be the number one contender when she's healthy and ready to go. Mm-hmm. So I have not found out how she's doing. I was looking the other day, but I will, as soon as we know, you will know for sure. Good question for number one. Now, does WSOF have the opportunity to establish their own brand despite signing so many cut UFC fighters? This is another fight league that is, wanting to get out there and compete with the UFC. Is there room?
There's room for them to establish their own brand, but I don't think there is room with that format to become a powerhouse like the UFC. Bellator, at least the way that they tried approaching it, was from a different formula. The tournament
style.
Segueing into, okay, we signed a couple ex-UFC guys. So yeah, they have an opportunity to establish a brand such as that, whereas Bellator is an established brand. It's a desirable place to go and fight, but it's a different brand and not quite as a high-end brand as the UFC. I think the WSOF has the potential to do that, but I don't think with the formula of signing some of the cut guys, trying to revive their careers, or really grassroots build up their own guys, that they'll be knocking on the UFC's door anytime soon as far as direct competitorship goes.
Is that trying to reinvent the wheel?
It is. Like I said, it is. Because then there's no real room yet for unification in the UFC because these guys are just showing that they're not playing well with each other. In boxing, at least, you'd have these cool unification fights where the WBO would, let the WBC champ fight and unify because the promoters realized, hey, we can make a ton of money if we cross-promote. I mean, we could make, and then in boxing, they made a belligerent amount of money off cross-promoting.
Right.
Right now, these promoters are keeping their doors shut because the little piece of the business pie that is there, they're wanting to take all to themselves. So it's until cross-promotion.
Do you ever see that happening? I don't see Dana White ever allowing that.
As long as Dana White is
in charge, that ain't happening.
Is in charge, and there's no IVs attached to him, and there's not a monitor keeping his heart alive. Yeah, I don't see any big-time UFC guys cross.
No, it's just he's going to keep it for himself, and why not? Why give someone else that opportunity? I can understand. He's been building this brand for so long, and in a way, couldn't you say that's maybe kind of what happened, kind of the downfall of boxing? Kind of, for the example, you were never able to get a Pacquiao Mayweather fight out of it, just because the promoters couldn't get together. Well, if it was under one regime. If this is the boxing championship, hey, if we want to know the true champ, that's where it has to be.
It's all the systems are flawed when you deal with combat sports, and that's how it's always gone.
Yeah, it's always been that way.
It's the toughest guy in everybody's backyard wants to fight everybody in their own backyard. It's that whole mentality. But a lot of these guys are willing to fight each other. But then you add the business element to it, and I don't think it's ever going to be a smooth sailing. I think the UFC has done a great job of establishing their own brand, making all the assets that they want to acquire acquirable. When Strikeforce came on the market, attaining them, attaining all their talent, the Pride buyout. I think they've done a fantastic job of bringing in fresh blood to keep their brand relevant and make their system much smoother than boxing. Boxing is boxing. The UFC is like the NFL of football.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, that's your
absolutely.
brand. Yeah, they've done a great job. And if some of these other organizations don't come up and knock on the door, I'm okay with it. You know, I'm okay with being a UFC for life kind of guy. I'm not watching too many CFL games right now. You know, to make sure that the
CBA,
CFL, to see if they're knocking on NFL's door. I'm happy tuning in every Sunday.
Right, and getting that level of play. Absolutely. Yeah. Now, having that said, I was watching TV, and I didn't get the name of the league. Did you see this? It's a straight, you know, punching league. You know, have you seen it? They got
bare knuckle boxing.
Is that what it is? It reminds me of the WCL. I used to work for the WCL. They have a no ring, no ropes, no, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's kind of like a bowl is the best way I can describe it. And they sit there and they go toe to toe, and someone's getting knocked out. They have the gloves on. This
is the thing with the bare knuckle gloves, and I had to find out about this from a coaster at a bar. They have the gloves, but they're able to call it bare knuckle because the strip has been taken out right here. So essentially, it's an MMA glove with a gap, so knuckles can make contact.
Okay, in your opinion, is there room for that's a completely something different. You get the World Series of, you know, fighting. I remember calling the World Cup of mixed martial arts and all these other, but basically that's MMA. UFC style of fighting. It's the exact same thing. This is something kind of a new concept. Is there room for this kind of league?
I don't think there really is. This thing, it's because it's trying to play.
Is it novelty?
It's novelty. It's trying to play off a gimmick. It's being hokey. Oh, bare knuckle, but we have this. And it's you know, you can YouTube some crazy stuff that's going on over in Russia right now of these guys where it's team fights. These guys running through obstacle courses, MMA fighting each other. If you
like American Gladiators,
it's American Gladiator with MMA. It's this insane
Russian
thing, and I mean they're kicking each other in the head as hard as you can. Guys are getting knocked out. It's insane, but it's gimmicky. It's
gimmicky.
Hokey.
That would be a good way to put it.
I do think that there is room for different styles, though. You always hear contention of people being, you know, dissatisfied with the decision based on the UFC criteria. I think if you scored something such as in training, we do something called grapple boxing.
Right.
It's kickboxing with takedowns. Usually when it hits the ground, you establish control, stand back up. That's a much easier style to score because you're standing, you're kickboxing, those are easier to score. A takedown is actually something credible that you're scoring. You know, it leaves a little bit of the ground and jiu-jitsu play out of the equation, but I think something like that would be more interesting than some of these
novelty,
than to tune in and
All right, that's interesting stuff. But we'll keep you abreast of any situations that happen with any new leagues, of course,
or lawsuits
here on the Hit Squad. Absolutely. Well, fact or fiction? Robbie Lawler deserves the title shot more than Carlos Condit.
Fact. Yeah, fact. Lawler went out there, beat a game Rory McDonald. A kid that I do feel was the number 2 contender in the world.
Right,
He beat Rory. I think he legitimately beat Rory. I think he deserves it. Carlos Condit's had his shot. He dropped it. I think if Lawler steps in and he's healthy, I think that's a way more exciting fight, especially when Condit's already lost to Hendricks and he lost to GSP. I think he's got to win one more to put himself back in that contention.
Talk about a Tyron Woodley-Robbie Lawler fight.
I think that's interesting, but those two are affiliated with each other now. They are both.
You run into that.
You're starting to get to that. These guys want to train with each other to get each other good, but then you get that Rory McDonald GSP
that you're not going to fight each other. Yeah.
At this point, it's free for all. I think the matchups that they have set are great.
Yeah.
I think Robbie Lawler versus Hendricks, explosive fight where one of those guys is going to come out the champ. Both are going to be hungry. Both are going to show up. I think Woodley needs one more shot or one more fight to show that he's championship caliber.
Yep.
He was coming off a grindy loss to Shields, came in, had a great fight against Koscheck. Koscheck hadn't really shown that he was not going to be a contender anymore. I think he needs one more. I think the Condit fight's an absolute
fit.
Yeah, perfect fit. I think that they've got that little slot mixed up just well. I mean, it gets really interesting if Lawler wins and Woodley wins.
Yeah, right.
You know, that's where
it becomes that. Yeah, the Cormier. You know.
Yeah. Do you fight? I personally don't think those two have been training together long enough or have that camaraderie where they wouldn't fight, though.
Well, money talks. Let's face it. You know, and I think was it you that said, you know, I knew a lot of the people I wrestled. Wrestlers never had a. You know, there's the issue of striking. It is different, but. It's an individual sport.
Woodley would take that fight, and Lawler would take that fight.
Yeah, I mean, and money talks. Let's face it. If you put this is going to be the headline of. I mean, hey, I'd tune in, baby.
I would.
I'm excited for that. I'm a big Lawler fan. Obviously, a big Tyron Woodley fan. I feel like Robbie Lawler's been around forever.
Yeah.
The thing is, he's like only 29 or 30. You know what I mean? But I feel like he should have been like 50 years old by now because he came up so young, and it's a really good situation.
Lawler's not the same age as Mark Coleman.
Right. I'm like, holy cow, that guy is, But that's interesting stuff. And now kind of this is what we touched on in the last segment. I do want to delve more into it. Ranking number 10 in some of the UFC pound-for-pound rankings. Ronda Rousey, does she deserve her slot?
Again, I think it goes back to that same philosophical issue of, is it the same? I think she's number one with a bullet in her division.
Right.
But currently,
when you break it down with the guys.
When you break it down, the depth
that the men have.
Just the depth that's in this men's division, I don't think she's necessarily cracked that yet.
To play devil's advocate, don't you think the UFC has to have her up there, though? I mean, if
they have to, if they want,
I think for promotion, and that's kind of what I was saying all along. People are like, oh, you think Ronda Rousey deserves to be in the top 10? I really don't. In my personal opinion, is no, probably not. Just because the talent that it's just not the same. I mean, she's definitely like you said, the best woman by far, but she's. Not fighting the same caliber of athlete that she is, where John Jones is fighting the same caliber of athletes that John Jones is. Anderson Silva, the same thing. You got just a logjam of talent. So, I mean, that's the difference.
Here's what has to happen for Ronda Rousey to truly crack that top 10. The UFC has to do exactly what they're doing. The UFC has to keep putting names like her in the top 10 to legitimize that division, to draw attention to that, to bring in competitors. They're starting to bring in people from overseas, to bring this in so these girls can fight each other, so these girls can fight her and have the same depth that those men's divisions have been exposed to. You get those men's division where you look down their records and oh, he fought that guy 5 years ago?
Right.
That guy's fighting for a title now, and then he's over. It's if they want to do full forward with that women's division, they have to keep doing that. Yeah, the UFC has to keep putting her up there. They've got to keep promoting it to legitimize it.
What do you think is the best philosophy against Ronda Rousey for as far as trying to beat her? Because, I mean, she's so good on the ground. I mean, 7-0, 7 arm bars first round. Is there going to have to be someone who can go in there and grapple with her, or does there need to be someone in there who can maybe stuff those takedowns and stand and bang with Ronda Rousey?
I think Ronda Rousey is in the exact same position in the women's division as Royce Gracie was whenever the UFC first started.
That's a real good analogy.
It was a mystery. It was this ground fighting that
is he doing?
That Sue was super effective, and people knew what he was doing after, knew what a triangle was, knew what an armbar was after UFC 1, still couldn't find a way to defend it because it was so much more intricate than they were used to. I think that they just have to have someone who comes in and shuts that down. I think a girl with maybe a really good, strong wrestling background who's not afraid to throw some damage on her feet, I think she'd be a dangerous matchup for Ronda. Take her down, Ronda. Take her down, beat her up a little bit, rough her up, take her into some later rounds, and then you never know what's going to happen on your feet.
How far are we away from getting a girl like that? Is the talent pool of women there, or are we 4 or 5 years away, you think?
I think we might be a little
years away before we can.
Kind of like Royce had to step away and then come back and get beat up by Matt Hughes.
Right.
He kind of went away in the dust of Royce, or he took a fight over in Japan. But yeah, he went away in the dust from the UFC as the greatest.
Right.
I think Ronda could do the same thing. Then whenever the talent
catches back up, I agree.
Yeah, so I think she's in the same spot as Royce was.
It's good stuff. We appreciate the questions from the Knuckle Junkies. Always a good time. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we're going to be tackling the local scene and UFC 168 on our next segment. You're watching 101sports.com.